Okay, so last time, this is where we left off. I'm glad I hadn't wiped the database or anything like that. I actually still had where we left off. Just a simple dashboard. It's got a filter on the minimum and the maximum, and got a couple of things that I'm going to start off on this. I'm going to add a couple things to this. Then I'm going to go on to a external query, and based on people's comments from last time, I'm going to attach a dashboard to a screen, and I'm also going to do a finish off with a little bit fancier dashboard where you type in and it filters as you type of thing. So this one, first thing I want to do is, so I've got some number filters here. Just want to add a combo box to a filter. To do that, I'm going to customize the tracker view. And I'm going to come into here, bring up my toolbox. Just grab an Epi combo. And I normally would come in here and give it a good name, things like that. I'm going to be sloppy and not give it a name, but I'm going to tie this to a business object. So listed on here, I've got part class as one of my columns. So I'm going to make a drop down to filter on part class. It's a pretty standard thing to display, so I'm going to look for, select my business object of a part class, and just by doing that it fills in a bunch of the other good stuff for you. And now down at the bottom we've got is tracker query control. I'm going to change that from false to true, and the query column that I'm going to go off of is the class ID. So this combo is actually going to be displaying, it's going to by default it's going to display the class description, but the value behind the scenes is going to be the class ID. Got that available, and way back up at the, so change it to tracker query control and set the query column, and go all the way back to the top for your conditions. Equals is good for a combo, and we just need to turn it into a prompt. So if I leave prompt as false, this will always be grayed out. Won't be able to change it. Save that. Close that. And I've got a combo. If I hit the refresh, it's going to change my returned results. It's a little confusing in what I did here because I never actually displayed the class ID. This class happens to have the same ID and description. FGFP. Finished goods. I'm going to try that one. No? I found one that worked before. But that's basically tying it to a combo box. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take and publish the results of this to a a web page. Actually, I should make one other comment on here. So when you get in and you customize these views, to me the best reason to be doing that is to be able to add in combo boxes or date time pickers, because through the kind of the wizard driven side of it, you can't really put in I want a date range and get it. You have to actually come in and customize the bottom. Does that make sense?
What I do is I do a calculated field that has the same, and then it brings it in and the actual field. I'm saying in the query you do a calculated field with the date time, the same field, then it brings it in there, so then you get a range.
Ah, do a calculated. Okay.
You learned that trick from me.
Yeah, I usually end up making the tracker control, setting none of the defaults because they're never what I want, and just plopping down the fields I want. Okay, so now I'm going to add a URL. So as soon as you add a URL, if you put nothing in there, you'll get a URL. That's probably not real helpful to begin with, but we can start to set up what's called a publish and subscribe relationship. So I'm going to come back to my original query. I'm going to go to properties on it. I'm going to publish, and I'm going to publish the vendor name. Now I can come back to my URL, and I'm going to set up a subscribe. So it's come in the lower box here. It shows me my available publishers. So I'm going to subscribe to the vendor name. And then I need to give it a token. This can be pretty much anything you want to call it. I'm just going to call it name. I'm going to put it in square brackets. You'll see what I use that for in a second. So I hit OK, it wouldn't let me do it. And the reason the error message it gave me is the query phrase token was not found in the URL. So it's expecting that since I want this value, I'm going to put it someplace in the URL. Now, according to my little cheat sheet here, a Google search need all that. Basically, if you send Google this string, google.com/search $Q equals, whatever is after the equals is what it's going to search for. So I'm going to put in name. So now, as I select different things up here, let's get rid of some filters. So now as I select different spots here, it changes what URL I'm going to. I don't know if that makes sense going to Google, but it's an easy example. Applications I could see of this is, for example, if you had like a supplier website and their part, and it was, somebody, I think of like somebody like Allied Electronics. I'm pretty sure there's a way that you could send them, here's the URL, here's the part. Yeah, why don't you just show me what you've got on hand? and just by selecting through. Yeah. This would work with SharePoint. I use it with SharePoint. Yep. I use it, and I also use it for SSRS. I've used it for SSRS reports also. Passing the parameters that I've used that quite a bit actually, where I've got a report that's linked to what I'm displaying. So as I select different things, I get a different report.
So how do you figure out what needs to be in I mean, I get that the token is how do you come across use that particular format to search
I Googled it. I Googled Google search URL, and then to figure out what actually worked, I just opened up a web browser and typed it in and made sure that it works. A lot of times, Google doesn't work quite this way, but a lot of times, if you go to a site and you search for it, you'll see what you searched for, change the URL, and a lot of times just by looking at that, you can figure it out. Usually it takes some searching, though, to figure out what. Yeah.
How will that work if you have a site that requires login?
So if you have a site that requires login credentials, so SharePoint won't be a problem because it's going to have saved credentials and it just knows who you are. Other sites I've never tried it on.
Epicor will not support pop-ups, and it's still the case in Epicor 10. So if it's requiring credentials, you'll get a 404 error that the page cannot be displayed. It has to be saved in your credentials, which may mean that on your default browser, you'll need to add that to your trusted domains and things like that, so that it will always remember that. But the password prompts and things like that will not come up. So if you're talking about using it like for a supplier portal login or something like that, you'll want to save that user ID and password and then add that to your trusted sites.
But basically, if you can open up a new browser window and copy and paste in results, copy and paste in a string, if that will work, it's going to work here. Any other questions on that? All right. I'm going to do a external query now. Where's my... It's already running. Okay. I've got a local copy of SQL that I'm using. Is anybody using external queries? Just out of curiosity, I suppose I should probably say what they are also. So external queries are a way to write a BAQ that is going to a SQL database. So that might be a SQL database that's from some other system. It might be your Epicor SQL database. But now you can go to a SQL database and use that information.
So, for example, say you're migrating to E10, but you don't want to bring over your current data. If you took all your current data and put it into a separate database, you could do an external query to that.
Yes. Yep. And I use it for complicated queries. If there's something that in Epicor I would have to do a cube or something like that because I've got queries and subqueries, and I can usually write that in SQL and publish, create it into a view, and then I can bring it into Epicor. So, first step in doing this is actually setting up ODBC connection on the server. So just hopping on our test server, and I'm going to create a ODBC connection, which is under Data Sources ODBC. And you want to create a system one. That's SQL Server. And I never remember the instance of my own computer. This is my local computer name, and I'm running SQL Express. So that's just normally this would probably just be the name of your SQL server. And I just made a super secure username and password on my local instance. It was, which you'll be able to see shortly when I type it in. So my guess on why this is taking a long time is because now this server is having to hop out through the VPN, and it's failing. That works. Sorry about this. And make sure that it resolves. Oh, that's no good.
Do you need on the internet?
Huh?
Are you on the internet?
I'm on the internet. It's trying to resolve back through the VPN and can't resolve back through the VPN.
Try to go back and do the local host where the server name is.
But for the server, this is my test server that's at.
Oh, you can't resolve it?
I can't resolve back to my local machine. Is where I'm trying to resolve back to.
That's what I'm saying, put it in local host so you can move.
No, because I'm on I'm remote desktop to a different machine.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I think you can do You might be able to resolve it with the IP address. Try that
You're gonna get a little SQL lesson on here too. This is my development SQL box. I'm creating a E10. We'll go to E10 demo. So what I'm doing right here is making a user in SQL. This would be a step that you would need to do to get this to work the first time, because you need to have some way that you're going to access your database. And you're going to want to do it as a, where's my data reader? You're not going to want to do it as a full rights user. Either limited rights. When I do this in a live environment, in general, I give the original user no rights, and then add them on, add tables on as I need. That's in general what I do. Because you're otherwise, so this now hitting this user hitting the Epicor database has full access to see anything. Financials, pay rates. That's why,
This is bypassing.
yeah. That's why you have to be careful.
So you do it on the
Oops, membership.
right now. You can at the database level.
Okay. Epicor.Mfg. Hey, did you see how fast that went that time? So, basically, once you get a username and password and a server, it's just a bunch of nexts, and you hit the test at the end. It says, "Hey, I can connect." Okay. So I set up a data source on there. I'm going to come into the BAQ. And new external query. Now, as soon as I've set up that ODBC connection, it shows up in this list. Prior, there would have just been this lake one. So I've got that. Database name is E10 demo. This is my favorite piece right here. Notice how it started right there and typed it out in plain text right there. Okay. So that's all there is on it. Once you've created one of these, it gives you this connection string. I usually just go in and grab I open up an existing one, I grab my connection string, copy it, and paste it into my next one, because I probably have a more complicated username and password. So, now, my phrase build, these are the E10 tables. So I can bring those in and add filters to them. In general, all I normally do is I've already created the view that I want in SQL, and I just bring in the view. And where's ABC? Let's grab. I'll usually just bring in a view that I have, and things you can add filters to it. Like adding the current company. So if you're hitting your Epicor database in an external BAQ and you're multi-company, so normally in a BAQ you don't have to specify that you want it to only show you current company results, because it just knows, it just tells you current company. When you do it externally, you always need to set that filter to say only show me current company, unless you want to see across companies. which is, that's usually the method I'll use to go across companies. But everything else basically looks about the same. So here's my ABC codes. If I would have removed this, gotten results from the other one. Does that make sense? Okay. Let me just do, I should show one thing because it was the, when I think about it, this was a complaint that I always got. We got ERP dot part. How many parts are in the demo database?
Well, you're looking cross-company. At least a few thousand.
Okay.
Probably 10.
Okay. So that wasn't the best thing to click.
You're running 9 here, or is this 10? Sorry.
This is 9. I'm hitting the 10 SQL. I'm hitting a 10 database.
That would explain the table names and why it's confused.
Yes, that was the new table names in 10. Okay, so let me just add back in that current company. Current company.
I only wanted to be the part, not the part number, but the company.
Thank you.
Just guessing.
Yeah, I would get a very short, get a quick response.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to bring this into a dashboard. So it comes into a dashboard just like everything else. Thinking about it. That should have worked. What did I do wrong? Current company. Shouldn't need to be shared.
What's the problem you got?
I'm showing as in use. Get nothing. Let me just blank results. Why am I getting nothing back? Honestly, I don't know why I'm not getting anything back on that. No, because it's external, so the multi-company has no effect. I use these all the time. The thing I was going to show is my right click on part number was not going to work because it's an external query. It's not part of Epicor. Epicor doesn't know what it is. There are ways around that. Basically what you end up having to do is after you deploy the dashboard, you have to go in and customize the dashboard. And after you customize it, in the customization wizards, there are external property or extended properties. Gives you a couple options to set extended properties. It doesn't actually give you the one you want, but it will generate the code bit of it. At the end, I'll try to come back and show that. But you modify the extended properties to a like, and then part.num, and now it will know what to do, and your right-click functionality would work. That was the big complaint when I first started doing these, is that nobody liked that it didn't have that.
So it used to be on the right from now it's
Yeah. There's a way around it, though. I can show an example later. Let's see. And I don't know what else to tell you except for trust me that it really does work in dashboards. Yeah, I don't know, I found lots of applications for it. I might go to it too much now just because it's easier. I've become more comfortable in SQL than the BAQ designer. Okay, next one is I'm going to attach PO suggestions to new purchase orders. So, and there's, I think, a good business case for this. So if I go into new PO suggestions, I've got some new PO suggestions for a DCD 100SP. If I go into change suggestions, Epicor, Chicago plant. Was I in a different plant when I wrote my notes? What's that?
You're probably in the main plant. They don't do much shit to Chicago. Can't tell you where you were. Doing everything through 06 with his education. Sorry.
No, there wasn't in any. There wasn't the. It wasn't in 06. It should have been right where I left off. Is where it should have been. No, nothing there. Where did my suggestions go? So, what can happen in your suggestions is you can get a change suggestion for a. So you can have suggestions for a part that is both on the new suggestions and a change suggestion. Has anybody seen that? And so, and sometimes it's kind of a goofy thing, because sometimes there'll be a change suggestion telling you to cancel a purchase order, and a new suggestion saying, oh yeah, cut a new purchase order for this part. And that's not a good thing. Let me just make sure that wrong one. I don't want that copy. Should have been right there. Either way, I'll show how to do it. Conceptually. Okay, so normally to see the change suggestions and the, let's make a new one. Okay, so purchased PO suggestion, there it is. So I'm just going to give an example of this. So if you're going to link together your change suggestions and your new suggestions, the table is suggestion PO change. Since I don't have a good example of a change suggestion, I'm going to grab a different table just to show the linking and actually show it following, because that's an important piece. I'm just going to grab part. So I'm just going to grab part. I'm going to make a quick dashboard. And then I'm going to go into developer mode, new PO suggestions, and I'm going to make a new customization on it. Bring up the customization. And this one's going to be all wizard based. So I'm going to make a new sheet, and I'm going to tie it to the main panel, give it some names, and I'm going to add a dashboard. So you can click there and search for it. Oh, dashboard isn't, you're right, that's my query. That dashboard is just test. Thank you. So here's the piece on the dashboard. So if I just left it at this default setting, it would bring up the dashboard, but it wouldn't have any interaction with the screen that I'm on. What I wanted to do is I wanted to subscribe. I wanted to subscribe to the data that is on the current screen that I'm on. So, and I want it to auto-retrieve because I don't want to have it subscribe but then go down and have to hit refresh every time. And I'm going to subscribe to a material suggestion. Part number. Bring that over. Now it created this right here. Now this should at some point give me a warning. Because every time I do this, I always get this warning. So I wanted to show it, because it always happens to me. It tells me that embedded dashboard invoked as a subscriber, but there's no filter defined. What? Okay. So now I have to go back to the dashboard. Because that's the step that I always forget. So I have to come into here, properties, and set a filter that my part number is equal to very last item, dashboard browse. And you don't need to, on that pop-up screen, you don't need to do anything with it except hit OK. If you enter things in there, then inside your dashboard you'll get the search window at the top. But part number is equal to dashboard browse. So I hit save. Now I should be able to come into my PO suggestions. I've got my material list. Put this someplace where I can see it. As I go through the list. So now as I change through here, it's going to go out to my dashboard and update the values. So now, obviously, just showing information from part isn't real helpful, but you can do that to...
Just so you know, there's a different way to do that as well to subscribers. You use the dashboard view, just like you can do prompts in a dashboard. Stick it at the top and unpin it so it hides itself. You don't have to go through the filter process for the subscribers.
It's a different way to, okay.
But as long as it knows where to prompt and the field value is the same, it'll work.
Okay.
Always more than one way to scope that in software.
I think this way is the way that's referenced in one of the guides.
Oh, wouldn't surprise.
Because I wouldn't have come up with this filter equals dashboard browse on my own. No amount of random clicking would have gotten me there. Does that make sense? All right. So, last one I want to show, I'm going to show the end product first. Oops, it's in developer mode. Apparently not that one. So this is what I'm going to show next. It's a dashboard with a kind of a live filter on it. When I've published this out to people, people really seem to like it. But this one does take some code, unfortunately, and it's not as there aren't many wizards that help you along the way on this. But we'll go through it step by step. And I can't take credit for this. I just copied the work of Jose Gomez, I believe his name is. And yeah. So, and there are going to be some things that I do that are seem kind of strange here. Get out of developer mode. So first I created a BAQ that basically returns just about nothing. But I want a BAQ that was really fast and really small, and just because. Now if anybody has a better idea on how to do what I end up doing, please tell me. And now, and I go in and I create a dashboard. I already have dashboard open. New dashboard. Does anybody remember what company I'm in? Mine Epicor 3. Epic 03 dash company. Okay, so I've got a dashboard that doesn't really do too much, and I'm going to deploy it. And my whole reason for doing this is to create a DLL that I can reference in Epicor that's now a blank slate. That's the only reason I create the dashboard, is just so I have something to work with. I'm going to reference off of one that I've already created in this dashboard sample. So now I could just go to menu maintenance and I could add that eug.dll to the menu someplace and go in and customize on top of that. So that's all I've done in this dashboard sample, is I've created a dashboard, attached it to a menu so that I can customize it. Does that make sense? Do you want me to go through? I can add that real quick. No? Okay. So, I've got a dashboard, and now I am going to customize it. First thing I'm going to do is add a new sheet, and I want it on MainController. Alright, so now I've got a blank slate. And what I'll do at the end is what I normally do on these is then I go and I hide my original stuff just to get rid of it. I'm going to go to Toolbox, and I'm going to take and make my very own Ultra Grid. So I need my ultra grid, and because sometimes I don't like updating my code, I'm going to give it the name that I already know that I referenced in the code that I'm going to copy and paste in here. And now I'm going to add some assemblies. And the assemblies I need are the dynamic query adapters. So I need the AD, the BO, and the IF. So I've got those. Let's see. And did I? Ooh. You're right. Thank you. Dynamic report, dynamic AD, dynamic query, dynamic view. Thank you. That would have been an error. Okay, so I've got that stuff in here. So now I'm going to save this. Go out and come back in. I'm never exactly positive when you have to go in and come back in, but I know at some point after adding references you have to go in and out, out and in. Okay, so I've got that. I'm going to go to the wizards, and I'm going to do an event wizard on load. So that's just, so this is code that's just going to fire as soon as it loads up, because I've got this fancy blank grid that I have to build up. The load of the screen. Yep. So I've got the load of the screen. I'm going to copy and paste some code, and I will go through basically if you keep, and I will post this code along with stuff. If you keep this code the way it is, it basically works. You just need to have the BAQ ID in there. And it's basically, it's going off and it's using some of the adapters and doing the query and putting it back into this grid. So I have to call my new, so I made this function, so I have to call it, and this piece right here is what actually goes off and pulls the data. So that's going to do the refresh. So in doing this, I am pulling everything in the query back into RAM before filtering it. So it should be a fairly short query. I have done one where I add a button to do this load data, so that if it's going to be a long query, you probably want the screen to open and finish, so your users go, okay, there's something there, and then they can click and wait. I don't know. So we've got that. Now I need to add a text box. All I'm doing there is I'm just, so that I can copy and paste my code, I'm naming this text box the same thing as I have in my example code. So I've got a text box. Now I'm going to use the wizards again. I'm going to do event, and I want a text box. There's the text box that I just created. So this wizard is creating code to call a function when the text changes. So anytime any of the text in that field changes, I'm going to call my function. So script editor added this for me. And all I've got here is another function that just builds up a search string. It just builds up a filter. So this filter is saying the field part description is like star, or wildcard, well, whatever's in my text box, star. And then it's going to apply it to that grid that I created. So I just need to set this filter every time that text box changes. And that should be it on there. Oh. I can't be quite that sloppy. I should clear out the default text in that text box. Okay. And can anybody tell me what my first mistake was? That I wrote all of that and didn't go in and hit test code after everything that I added.
I thought you were perfect.
Yeah. Oh! The name DQ adapter does not exist in the current context. That's because I forgot some code. Because I did not add my code up at the beginning. Does that go right there? No, that should be there. UI searches 27. that isn't the right spot. It is. That's not my working one either. When I did this yesterday, my first one failed too. Then I redid it and it worked. There it is. I didn't do my variable declarations at the top of my script, and I didn't remember what my declarations were. So at the beginning of my script, there we go. I needed to declare these global variables, which is basically the data view and that grid adapter or something. I don't know. I just needed to do that. So here we go. And I get a grid view that filters. And yeah, the right click does work on that. I know that one's kind of a lot. Questions on it? Blank stares. You can add multiple filters. So when I have this in production, I have the part description, part number, part class description, manufacturer name, manufacturer part number as all multiple places to start putting in values. And if you start typing in any of them, they all start filtering down. And
With something like that,
I couldn't. Yeah, sure. I imagine it's possible, but I wouldn't know where to begin on it, because this is actually, yeah, it's the only time I've ever actually made my own grid.
So any part in here you start typing is going to find, like under if you do like buy or production or put in a dash, it will start
So
anywhere, or just not just the beginning, right?
yeah, anywhere. So I can go PONENT.
Put a dash.
Or put a dash.
There's
Yep.
one thing that I've got complaints with E10 is that in the search boxes you have to have a complete word in there. You can't do a partial.
Yep.
And these, like for example, like Craig, he was trying to search for descriptions in a maintenance job. So like there's a error description. He wanted to just be able to type part of something because, like say example like alarm number or something like that they put in there. Sometimes people type it in differently. Sometimes there's space, sometimes there's not. So he just wanted to start typing part of the word. Well, you had to type the whole word in exactly. That's the only results that came back in the search. Yeah, maybe if you type in the asterisk in there in the search bar, it would start bringing back.
Yeah, this is exactly how you're doing it. If you're doing it in a dashboard, you can change.
I'm talking about just when you search, just doing the search for it, clicking on the maintenance job description.
Yeah, we probably do something through a dashboard search process or through a some sort of advanced search window being built where it's going to search contains, but you can't change the filtering process when you build that dashboard view in the dashboard to do your advanced searches. You can't change it from being equals to begins with or contains, and then it will look for those. Now, I mean, that being said, if they had left the space out, it's going to be a little bit trickier, right? But there are some ways to do it. It's a little bit easier now with 10 even than it was in the office.
Yeah, so the application that we did this on was got a list of parts that we really want engineers to use. So gave them a super, as easy as we could way to search through those parts, because it's a smaller list, and it's like, hey, these are the parts we want you to use. So, any questions about that or any of the other things that I talked about? All right. Thank you.